these kind of conflicts is what we see.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. We have our third guest for today's segment. We have Safa Nabizada from, I hope I'm, and please do forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Samir's Foundation. With us, and with this brief introduction, we would like to welcome Safa Nabizada to the Voice of Islam. Safa, assalamu alaikum, peace be with you, and welcome to the Drive Time Show.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so delighted to be here, and you pronounced it perfectly.
Okay, excellent. In regards to Samir's Foundation, just before we get onto the other questions regarding obviously the topic at hand of education in war-zone countries, what is Samir's Foundation? What is the actual purpose and objective of it?
So Samir's Foundation is a non-profit organization that I had established with the help of my family a few years ago. In 2015, my 15-year-old brother, his name was Samir, and he passed away. So in honor of him and to keep his legacy of spreading love and happiness alive, we named this organization after him. And our nonprofit has helped dozens of students receive school supplies in war-torn countries, and to be more specific, such as Afghanistan, as well as providing over dozens of families with financial assistance. In the beginning of when the pandemic hit, especially, we noticed how children were greatly affected by the virus since their parents were not able to provide for them. So we made sure to give them financial assistance with the help of a community of givers.
Very, very beautiful and very, very inspiring.
Thank you.
And what impact would you say conflict has on the youth, and how can we help youth suffering from conflict?
Well, conflict definitely does have a very big impact on the youth. I think that it has a huge impact on the development of a child's brain, because when those children are growing up with severe conflict around them, there are so many factors that do not allow them to prosper into who they deserve to be. They're exposed to abuse that causes a lot of trauma, and that trauma follows them and intervenes with how they look at the world. They grow with conflict, which takes a huge emotional toll on them. Those children in war are not able to access life necessities that are vital for their development. There's a lack of food, consumption, safety, shelter, and education. So these children are merely surviving. They're not actually living. And speaking on how we can help the youth suffering from conflict, I think it's definitely difficult to pinpoint what we can do exactly to help them, but I do believe that as a community, no matter where you come from, no matter what religion you believe in, no matter what race, ethnicity, no matter what, as long as you're a human, I think it's important to give, and we can do that by supporting humanitarian projects such as nonprofit organizations that really have the intentions to help these children directly. These humanitarian projects allow the youth that are suffering in conflict to gain access to many important tools to help them develop, and those tools can mean that it will have food on their tables or even supplies to go to school and gain the education that they deserve. So, yeah, it's really important that these children receive love from the global community.
Absolutely.
Very beautifully put.
Safa, also Safir here, I just wanted to ask, what do you think the main impact is of lack of education in war or conflict zones? I mean, I also want to bring in the example, just recently we have seen in the news as well that some girls were killed in Afghanistan where they were working in the journalist department or media or in the healthcare. So with these kind of challenges, what other challenges are in the way of providing education to both girls and boys?
Well, the lack of education in these conflict zones, I think, really sets back the society of the region. I think it obviously creates way much more conflict. I do believe that education is power, since it gives humans knowledge and lets them be attentive of all their actions. And when these regions do not have enough education, they're not able to prosper. There comes an insufficiency in job opportunities, which then leads to poverty, and all of that in general concludes to so much more confliction within the society. There's so much frustration that comes in matters with the people. I think education brings peace because it makes people become more patient and compromise with one another rather than have difficulty in decision making because, everyone's just frustrated because they're just trying to survive. And as you mentioned, in Afghanistan, there has been so many instances where journalists have been killed. And when I've noticed that when journalists are targeted specifically, I think because journalists are a voice for the society, and when these, I wouldn't say all of those who are in positions of power, but those who are trying to gain power in a bad way, not in a morally human way. I think they try to silence the people by, killing off these journalists who are just trying to be a voice for the people.
Absolutely, and obviously by trying to limit the education for girls, for example, it can only show that there is a weakness from those people who maybe feel a threat from
Exactly.
children gaining education, and that they might feel that this is a threat for them and their power.
Yes, exactly. Because education, I think, like we all know this, education is power, and lets them be aware of what's happening in the world. And when they don't have education, they're just, being brainwashed by these people, and they just think that their life is normal and stuff, but they don't know that there's so much more, and that they're capable of doing so much more.
Lastly, what support can people who live in this country, or people who are even listening to our show today, provide for children in these war-torn countries?
So other than how I mentioned before, supporting humanitarian projects, we need to continue to raise awareness for these children so that, those who are possibly in positions of power prioritize the lives of these children. It is a difficult task to make, the entire world empathize for each other, but even being part of a small percentage goes a long way. If through raising awareness we're able to connect with each other and help make the lives of children suffering in conflict a little easier, it will go a long way and bring a bright future ahead of them. Because there's, I think when we think of children in war, we just automatically think of how, they're not safe because they could get killed off. But I think there's so much more rooted into that, where, for example, how I talked about how there's trauma that's caused for them that, goes with them till they're grown up. It just interacts a lot with their life, and spreading awareness really does help so that everyone is more aware of what's happening to these children and decide to take action.
Perfect, lovely. Safa Navizada, thank you so much for your contribution in today's show. We hope you all the best. It's truly amazing to see people like yourself committed and dedicated in helping those youth that are maybe underprivileged, or due to one reason or another they are not able to get that education. So your stories, your foundation is truly inspiring, and we hope you